Today, we're going to talk about why diversity, equity, and inclusion are not the same as dismantling white supremacy and actively fighting anti-blackness. Hey y'all, hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mo if you're new here, and this is my channel, Mo Says So, where we talk about social commentary, social justice issues, and whatever I feel like. So in today's video, I'd like to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope you'll stick around, and I hope you'll check the resources in the description box. Let's get right to it. In early spring of 2007, I sat in a brightly lit room of fellow cadets and officers to have what was billed as an honest discussion of race in America, particularly how we could improve race relations at the Coast Guard Academy where I attended. We had just watched a performance of the play Spinning into Butter. The play seemed to be such an accurate reflection of what was going on at the Coast Guard Academy. How white people always center themselves and try to solve racism without including or even thinking about the black people who were actually affected by racism. It shows how racism and white supremacy is such a part of the fabric of society that even the most well-meaning people have anti-black prejudice. When faced with the mirror that shows them the prejudice within themselves, they go to great lengths to deny it instead of working to remove it. Now, I reread the play before this video, and I have thoughts on the play and the book Little Black Sambo that it gets its title from, but those are not part of the story. We can visit that another time in another video. So anyways, y'all, back to the spring of 2007. I'm sitting in this brightly lit room, and spring is fighting the last grips of Connecticut winter. There are many white faces in the room, and we are talking about how we experience racism. I'm nervous, and I think it's my responsibility to be here in this room having this conversation after 3 years of working to make this place more diverse. I have to be here. I just have to. Eventually, I start speaking about my experience growing up in the Caribbean and coming to the US as an adult. I say I was badly treated growing up because I was poor and from a single parent household, but nothing compares to the pain of racism. Because after all, I can overcome poverty and my background, but there's nothing I can do about the color of my skin. To be treated badly based solely on the color of my skin is the most painful. I experienced it for the first time as an adult at the Coast Guard Academy, and it almost broke me. I can't imagine how it must be to experience this as a child. Then I said, because of how much it hurts experiencing racism in the US, I do not want to have children that will be raised in the US. At that moment, all the white faces in the room turned red because I had offended them. They started yelling my name and asking me to apologize, and I lost a lot of respect for friends and classmates that day. You see, they were not ready to face their privilege and got hit in the face with white guilt. Instead of focusing on how they could change their behavior to prevent racism, they focused on how my words made them feel. They wanted diversity without inclusion. They wanted to say, look at all the black people in our institution, without making the institution a place where black people felt wanted, safe, and nourished. The fact that I spoke up about my experience and it didn't fit the idea of what America and the Coast Guard Academy was meant that I must not be telling the truth. They invalidated my lived experience. In a forum that was supposed to be about increasing diversity, white people centered themselves, and instead of talking about how to make the institution more welcoming to people of color, I was watching white people cry. Yeah, cry with tears and red-faced and all, and call me mean when all I did was share my experience. I did not do social justice work for a long time after that. Some months later, I read an article that talked about how diversity training usually ends in white tears and centering on the white experience. And I didn't feel alone anymore, but I became wary of social justice movements after this. I did not speak up about things like I used to. Even when one of my classmates in grad school threatened to sell me, I did not make a fuss. I didn't understand then about systemic racism. I didn't know about redlining. I knew about inequity in education, but I didn't understand how racism in the US had been legislated and how white people were taught in schools that slaves were happy and other such myths. I did not understand how it benefited not just white people, but also marginalized groups who benefited from white supremacy to continue to uphold white supremacy. But now I know a lot more than I did back then, and I am dedicated to using this platform and any other that I might find myself having to dismantle white supremacy. You see, diversity, equity, and inclusion are all great, but they still operate under white supremacy. And what we need is to dismantle white supremacy. So let me break it down for you. Diversity means that you have different types of people in your organization. The goal is to make your organization have different types of people from different backgrounds and ethnicity. Equity is about outcomes. It's about realizing that some people need a little extra help because they start at a disadvantage, and putting structures and programs in place to make sure that those who need that extra help can get it and be successful. Inclusion is about making sure that your organization listens to those diverse voices and creates an atmosphere where all people feel welcome, included, and nourished. With diversity, equity, and inclusion, we are still upholding white supremacy. Think about it. The ideal is the white male landowner, and everything is to lift those of us who are not white male landowners up to the standards of white male landowners. Whiteness is the standard. Even if it's never articulated, at some level we all know it. That is why diversity, equity, and inclusion are not enough. They are rooted in white supremacy. So often, what happens in the name of inclusion is a series of conversations where Black people are expected to solve racism and we end up hurt and tired. Listen to me, Black people. You do not have to show up to these conversations and you do not have to solve racism. It is not your responsibility to fix the organizations that you belong to. A lot of people feel entitled to Black labor. They feel that because we are the ones suffering, we should fix it, and we do not have to. Any organization that is truly anti-racist will realize that it is on them to create an environment where Black people feel comfortable. There are links in the description box if you want to read more on these topics. Now, I'm not saying that we should abandon diversity, equity, and inclusion. We would not be here we are without it. We need to build on it and take the next step towards dismantling white supremacy. So many people do not realize how much they lean into anti-Blackness to continue to benefit from their proximity to whiteness. For too many people, Blackness is a place they visit. Black people are either idealized or disparaged. Michelle Obama is either the greatest first lady to ever first lady and she will solve all of our problems, or she is bringing down the status of the White House. Both positions are bad. Both positions dehumanize us. Both positions other us. Allow Black people to be fully human. We are people with hopes and dreams. We are everywhere. We have varied interests. The thing is, People have an idea of what a black person should be, and they will do everything to make us fit that idea. They don't even realize the idea of what it means to be black is inherently anti-black because it is rooted in white supremacy and the myths that were invented to oppress us. Anti-blackness is based on the covert structural and systemic racism which predetermines the socioeconomic status of black people and is held in place by anti-black policies, institutions, and ideologies. It is also a disregard for black institutions, policies, and people. Let's break it down from the institutional level to the personal. 1. You predetermine the socioeconomic status of black people. You see a black person and without even having spoken to them, you assume things about them like that they don't have a college degree and stuff like that. 2. You support anti-black policies, institutions, and ideas. Y'all know what I mean. 3. You disregard black people, policies, and institutions. You see them as less. When a black person speaks up, you don't believe them. You disregard what they have to say. Their word does not carry as much weight as people of other races. The solution is simple. Recognize these 3 actions in yourself and work to change them. If each person stopped themselves every time they prejudged a black person or person of color, supported anti-black policies, and disregarded black people, we would be closer to dismantling white supremacy. Unfortunately, there are more people who care more about maintaining their privilege under this system or preventing feelings of guilt than dismantling white supremacy and fighting anti-blackness. These are the people who believe that conversations are all we need to move forward. They think they are allies, but they are not ready to deal with their anti-blackness. They will fight for black people as long as the black people don't ask for too much. As long as the black people exist within certain parameters. For them, blackness is still other, something that exists outside normal. For them, blackness is less than, and any indication to the contrary is met with hostility. These are the people building and leading organizations and online spaces. They are on both sides of the political spectrum. They have black friends. They have marginalized identities. They use the right pronouns. They think they're inclusive. But as soon as a black person dares to point out their anti-blackness, they unite and paint that person as the villain. They lean in stereotypes. They unite in anti-blackness. Anti-blackness in marginalized communities and leftist organizations is a very real problem. It is a problem that we have to commit to fighting. Those who use anti-blackness to maintain the privilege they enjoy due to their proximity to whiteness will find out one day that proximity to whiteness does not protect you from white supremacy. So it's imperative that we continue to fight to dismantle white supremacy, building upon what has worked in the past. Representation, diversity, inclusion, while at the same time working to remove anti-blackness from ourselves and the organizations that we belong to. If we look closely, we will realize that so much of the isms and phobias are rooted in anti-blackness. But y'all not ready for that conversation. Remember, no one is free until all of us are free. We should all be fighting for black liberation, native sovereignty, and migrant rights. Let us continue to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion because representation matters, and this is how it takes us towards our goal of dismantling white supremacy. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you'll have a great day, and I hope I'll see you all soon. Don't forget to check out the resources in the description box below, and if you enjoyed this video and you would like to support this channel, you can do a donation using PayPal or buy me a coffee, or you can support me monthly on a recurring basis by joining this channel membership or joining my Patreon. All of those links are listed in the description box down below, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.